How you doing there, sir? And how's the weather?
I'm doing awesome, sir. How are you guys doing? The weather is great here in Minnesota. It's a beautiful time to be in Minnesota right now. I'm happy to be on with you guys. Hopefully, we can have a spirited discussion and we can get the facts out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. In the nation's capital, I see you in your drop top or your moon roof. I tell you, it's beautiful to be in the nation's capital. How's the weather? How's everything going with you?
Yeah, immediately I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland, and just to provide the our audience update on the latest ongoings in the political scene, I'm joining you guys. Mr. Padma, I missed you in Minnesota. I was there last week. Yeah, in the in where what we call it, Brooklyn Park. Yeah, I was there. So just like you say, man, Mr. Gayman, there are a lot of things. The political scene is a buzz. There's a lot of movement, and I'm ready to delve right into it.
Thank you very much. Obviously, let me do some housekeeping here. We want to announce to you that starting next Sunday, we are going to go back to our regular 4 p.m. Eastern time. That will be 3 p.m. Central time. We are trying to accommodate our audience in Liberia, as you know, in 4 hours. So 4 o'clock our time here will be 8 o'clock in Liberia. Hopefully they can join us. 6 o'clock is okay for us, but it's about 10, 11 o'clock in Liberia, and it shuts a lot of our folks out. So we'll be coming back to that. I also want to send my condolences to all the Arsenal fans. If you are a member and a lover of the team called the Gunners, you guys are the Arsenal fans. I'm sorry, I'm a Chelsea fan, and I'm loving it. So let's get going here. At the end of the day, we are going to have a particular segment called the political play of the week. So Mr. Padma is going to select a particular political movement in Liberia this week that he will consider play of the week. Also, like Mr. Eastman said, there's so much going on in Liberia, you could pick anything. He will also pick his political play of the week. So let's go with the lineup here. It's politics, politics, politics. Mr. Eastman, you read the lineup here. Let's see what we got.
Okay, so is Nyonblee Lawrence Kanga the running mate of UP's Joseph N. Boakai for the elections of 2023? There's been a couple of sightings of them together, T-shirts being made, but we just await the official announcement of the dynamic duo of Boakai and Nyonblee.
Okay. And the next one here says, what does Nyonblee bring to the tickets? Listen, in picking a running mate, you got to look for what that person brings to the ticket. What does Nyonblee bring to the ticket? Beyond that is Joseph Boakai making the same mistake he made with Nukwe that caused him his defeat in 2017. And C, we are going with what are the considerations that go into selecting Nyonblee Kanga or the Ure factor? Who could be a better choice for Joseph Boakai as a running mate 2023? Then we're going to look, if we have time, we are going to go into Mr. Alexander Cummings' reply to President Weah. We have a little war going on in Liberia. Did Cummings go too far and too low? We're going to delve into that. And B, are we going to see another reply from the president? Are they going to be going back and forth? C, when will the coming letter war end? So we want to welcome Mr. Gagwa, Robert Gagwa. Mr. Gagwa, introduce yourself, where you calling from, or where we see you. It looks like you're in one of your perched studios somewhere.
Well, thank you so much, Jerome, and thanks to Mr. Eastman and Michael as well. I'm no stranger on this platform. I've been here for the focus on Liberia team is like family to me, and it's always a pleasure to be on to discuss Liberia. I reside in Atlanta, Georgia, and I just left my office and I'm sitting at home. So
Beautiful.
look forward to discussions.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, do us a favor. Mr. Gagwa, please share with your audience, Mr. Padmore, Mr. Eastman, and the audience out there. Please share this show. Our show is divided into three parts: the introduction, discussion, then we read comments and take some calls. The telephone number will be displayed or will be pinned on the screen. You can call and defend or do whatever it is you want to do that we do here. We have no fear or no favor for anyone. Everybody can be discussed. Any issue can be discussed. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Let's share this show. Let's get interactive. Our folks in Liberia, get active. You can call. You can write. We are ready. Let me welcome Mr. Emmanuel Thompson, Dr. Edison Pajibo, Elvis Morris, Emmanuel Jackson. We got everybody coming on, and that's a great thing. Please share this show and get interactive. Now let's go to the first thing here. Since we have Mr. Gagua here, you are the newbie on here. So let's go here, Mr. Gagua. In Nyonblee Kanga Lawrence, the running mate of UP Joseph Boakai for election 2023. I know you've been following the social media, you've been following the drama. What says D?
Absolutely not. I think that I think this will be a mistake, and if this is indeed his choice for VP, then I think his last presidential bid for the executive mansion might be dead on arrival. Now, anyone who knows that I'm not a big fan of Miss Senator Lawrence, but it's not personal. It's based on the substance. This is a long-term senator, and yes, we are used to a system where our leaders are not elected based on any kind of strong record, be it on national issues, champion healthcare, for instance, uh, education reform, or anything of that sort. Right? People are elected mostly based on friendship, based on ethnic affiliation, so forth and so on. But when you look at Senator Lawrence's record, not only as a senator, but in positions she's held, leadership, it has not ended good. Let's look for let's look at an example with what's happening with LP. Charles Bronskin, of course, I'm not comparing the two because they're not even close. Charles Bronskin led LP for many years from its inception, and even though the party has some issues, those things were discussed internally. There was some structure of leadership there. He handpicked her and gave her the leadership of LP, and looked at what has happened under her leadership. Not only have we seen two wings of the Liberty Party, we have basically seen the Liberty Party shrink into what many might term as some feeder party, right? Instead of a top two party in Liberia. Now, if Charles Bronskin was still alive today, we would not necessarily be talking about Unity Party, CDC, and ANC. I think many will concur with me that we will be talking about maybe CDC and Liberty Party, with Charles Bronskin being a top two candidate, right? But basically, the point that I'm making is, under her leadership, she has failed to unify the party. She has failed to expand the party. She has failed to reach out to independent voters out there. And if you ask me if Liberty Party has gained more membership from where it was turned over under Charles Broskin, the answer will be no. Now, so if you looked at this pick, what is the idea behind this pick? All of the arguments that I've heard thus far center around gender. And in as much as I'm all for creating an environment where women are allowed to compete just as men, I think it is an insult to the intelligence of a lot of women that I know out there, Liberian women, home and abroad, to just limit the conversation to just gender. They should be qualified. They are qualified, well-educated Liberian women who can go out there and compete with men by making their cases. Yomi Kangwa Lawrence has absolutely no case to make. She adds no leadership to this ticket. And one last point I want to end on, because I know Eastman wants to come in. If you looked at Joseph Boakai's age, his pick for VP holds weight this time. This man is almost 80 years old. If elected president of Liberia, there's a strong possibility that his VP might be called in to step in the leadership or be president of Liberia if VP Boakai cannot fully execute his duties. The question we should ask ourselves is Yomi Konga Lawrence fit to step in his footsteps if deemed necessary? And I know a lot of folks have said, well, if George Weah can be elected president, then anyone would. Well, anyone can desire to be president, but not anyone can be elected president. And I think Alice Cummings can relate to that.
Mr. Eastman, the young man has made a great point here. I think he made it clear. There's a disclaimer that this is strictly professional. It has nothing to do with personality. It is not an attack on her personal life, but he is based on the political dynamics and the calculus. He sees no benefit of Nyonblee Kanga being vice presidential material to Joseph Boakai. What says you?
Well, very, very good point, and I appreciate the question. You know, as a leader, you don't lead a faction. You lead a whole entire people. And Yumli Cumberland Lawrence had an opportunity to demonstrate her leadership abilities when she took over the leadership of the Liberty Party. We have seen under that leadership, just as Mr. Gagwa alluded to, we've seen a dissemination of that party. We've seen a factionalizing of the party. There are going to be times where people have diverse views. This is normal in human, existence and interaction. But how to hold them together so that you continue toward a specific goal is an art of leadership. And that art of leadership, not everyone has, because you have to find grounds that you will unite and keep people moving toward a particular direction. What we've seen is a complete split. And now for her to be assuming the vice presidentship of the nation, where she may have to even step into leadership role as the president, one would wonder what would happen in Liberia had she been called to this task. Because if you can't, as they say in our country, you can't mind the small one, then as the big one you were able. So I do see, though, I did appreciate many of her discussions in the legislature. I think she brought up some salient points. She tried to champion some issues. She used to stand by certain things. You know, it wasn't just a yes sir person. She wasn't a yes sir person. She brought up issues that were related to the everyday life of Liberians, and I thought she would have continued on that. But now it looks like there's a personal issue that is affecting that balance. You know, being a national leader should never be subject to a clan or some group. And that's what we're looking at now. And I don't know if this will be the wisest choice for VP Boakai. But what I have noticed that she does have a loyalty that some people, that's all they look for. But will that loyalty transfer into votes? I can't guarantee that, and I'm with Mr. Gagwa on that. I don't see it really earning him more votes. Maybe in some in Bassa, but nationwide, I don't see it garnering a lot of votes. No.
Mr. Padmore, obviously there is no official uh, pronouncement that she will be, but the group that is pushing for the Nyonblee Kanga ticket, they have gone out and they have printed T-shirts. They have done a lot of investment in public relations. And where Joseph Boakai sits, the executive committees of the Unity Party are now wearing the T-shirts and emblems in Syria with Joseph Boakai and Nyonblee Kanga on it. And now we are looking at what does this say about Joseph Boakai? What does this say about the Unity Party? What does this say about the Liberty Party and actually the opposition for night end?
Yes. So, I think this says a lot. I think, for a long time, the ANC was demonized as the entity that was splitting the Liberty Party. And that, there was a lot of behind the scene things going on. I think the Liberian people now are beginning to see that the ANC has had nothing to do with this. That really, this has just been Nyonblee Kanga Lawrence's own agenda, her personal agenda to become vice president and hopefully president of this country. And that's what everybody is seeing right now. I've yet to see one T-shirt with Alexander Cummings and Musa Ability on it, or any other member of the Liberty Party. But now we see these T-shirts now, and we see former executives, including Mo Ali and others, wearing these T-shirts. So it says a lot about where they've been headed. I think the most revealing thing here is that we have not heard anything from Unity Party to dispel these rumors. And where we come from, silent means consent. And so now something that was under the table in the darkness now has come to light. And it seems that everybody, including even the new leadership of Unity Party, is accepting of this. So we'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes, and hopefully we'll see everything to its logical end.
Mr. Gagwa, when you look at the front pages of the newspapers in Liberia and front page Africa in particular, is blossom in large figure. Nyonblee Kanga, they are talking about whether it is disunity or the splinterness of the party, but they are saying, why would someone like Joseph Boakai, whose decision making has always been in question, allow his executives around him to proclaim and wear T-shirts? Okay, these things take time. They take planning to do and to unveil it at a major event with everybody wearing it. And then not only that, but Mo Ali's going on his page and writing a whole article why they reached this decision is just a matter of time. What does that say about the leadership style or the leadership or lack of Mr. Boakai? You are muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think that's an excellent question. A lot of times when we talk about these issues, some of my friends within the UP and other parties refer to us as rookies, as novices, because we left Liberia at a young age. But it's not hard to comprehend Liberian politics. I think at an elementary level, not to be disrespectful, but if you look at the reality, it's not difficult. Where are the strategies? Where are the political strategies? And when I say political strategies, I'm not talking about folks who offer their opinions like we do. Where are the political strategies that make a living off of strategically looking at different issues, different decisions, and how you go about that as a party, right? To control the narrative and to avoid these sorts of questions. Now, this is a bad strategy. Let's assume that she's not the pick. What this has done is put a cloud on the entire process of of selecting a VP. Now we know how that process goes, right? You identify a few candidates based on some serious issues, and you go through a vetting process, right? You go through a vetting process, and you want to make sure that some of the questions that you have are answered, and you're looking at all of the different parts of it, and then coming to a decision to pick a candidate. If Yomi Kanga Lawrence is a part of that process, then I think that process should be done in a way that is respectful of the other candidates or potential candidates. Now, because of Yomi Kanga Lawrence's position and because of her influence within the Unity Liberty Party, even though that you have a split party right now, the Yomi Kanga Lawrence LP and the Musa Abilities LP, it still raises this question about where Joseph Boakai finds himself. Now, let's look at Mo Ali for a second. Mo Ali is an executive who is known for basically putting himself in all kinds of situations he can handle. Now, I respect Joseph Boakai enough, even though I don't support him, but I respect him enough to admit that he is a statesman and a man with many intellects, right? And so when you see these things going on, as a leader, what I would do if Mo Ali wants to sell a choice he personally thinks will befit Joseph Boakai, that can be done internally. But when you go about printing T-shirts, and these T-shirts are worn by folks that have been bought to pitch this dangerous narrative that undermines what I would say democracy and a process that should be taken seriously. I mean, it raises questions about his leadership. I would not sit by and allow this to happen if I were Joseph Boakai. Allow the process to play on. This is not the case. One last point I want to make about this, though, is I think let's ask this question. Other than being a woman, what does Yomi Kanga Lawrence bring to the table? She cannot deliver Grand Bassa to Joseph Boakai. I don't think she can. She cannot deliver Grand Bassa to Joseph Boakai. A lot of people from Bassa, including myself, does not see her as a true leader who has exemplified true leadership and a true direct representation of the people of Grand Bassa County. There are people who feel disenfranchised. There are people who feel that she's failed them, and there are many lingering questions. So what? How does this benefit Joseph Boakai? I still don't get it, and I strongly believe, and I'll say this publicly, I strongly believe that if this is his pick, I'm sorry to say that his campaign will be dead on arrival. You're muted.
Let me read this from Front Page Africa there. I guess this is the going topic tomorrow. It says here, we are not ambivalent. We are not ambiguous. And we know exactly where we stand. The T-shirt tells where we stand, and that's what is going on, period. That's Mo Ali. While he's wearing a customized T-shirt bearing the image of Boakai and Nyonblee Kanga in Buchanan. Then another political party leadership came on and said, Boakai's silence by even allowing Mo Ali to print a T-shirt with Senator Nyonblee Kanga's picture and sitting next to him signified that he wants another confusion in the Liberty Party that will erupt in this new arrangement. This is from one Byron Brown Jr. He's a member of the All Liberian Party. So here he is, even though he's a member of another party, he's predicting that this particular behavior is so anti-democracy, bordering on gossip and innuendo, and by the vice president allowing these things to feather around him. To him, it is another recipe for disaster in the Unity Party, one akin to the one they just went through with the eviction and all of that. And he is saying this is something that has to do with fundamentally wrong, intrinsically wrong with decision making. When we talk about age, people say, you know, ages things should not be. But there are people within the other political arrangement that are saying this is what happened when you are very old and feeble. And you relegate your delegate, or now you're not delegating, you relegate the position to people around you, someone like Mo Ali and other folks who are attempting to play a major role in that administration are now calling the shot before the vice president, even though Mr. Patmore, go ahead.
I think before Mr. Patmore, I just want to enter, what we're looking at is, again, a classic management failure, especially that on part of Mr. Boakai.
Absolutely.
He's been, for me, my observation that he's made classic management errors. It started from when he took over the UP party in 2017, just before the elections. He didn't summon all the chief lieutenants of the UP party and those who are in government to harness their strength and powers and influence to garner strength for the next election. He failed to do that. He's failed to manage the resources he has had. Also, he is of the old order where he believes in consensus, not democratic. So say one, so say all. He did not want to contest the chairmanship of the CPP, and it's not expected that he doesn't believe that the vice presidentship should be a contest either. Now, I must admit, this may irk Benani Uri, who has supported him throughout, now seeing that he's chosen, or they're about to coronate Nyonblee Lawrence as the vice president. But again, I see massive management failures. You see, Joseph Boakai is an excellent diplomat. He understands how etiquette, he understands how to administer and how to associate his organization in an amicable way. That's diplomacy. Leadership is a whole different thing. And I do not see the proper leadership strides he's making, because part of leadership is management. And if you're failing in management several times, you're failing to manage the resources available to you and harness them in your advantage. How will you do with the nation? So from what I see, management failures and a lot of old school consensus instead of democratic process, just like Mr. Gaga alluded to.
Yeah, Mr. Padmore, hopefully I'm not wrongly accusing here, but from the beginning of this whole arrangement,
you don't have it.
During the heyday of the CPP, what we heard was that Ambassador Joseph Boakai is a man of wisdom. He's a man who is articulate. He's a man who processes things through. He's a man who, when you see things, he believes in symbolism. That's what makes him wise. If this is true, if all of these things are true, we are looking at symbolism, okay? He's sitting on the stage with everything around him saying something else without him saying it. If you were reading tea leaves, okay, I know, because we knew very well that Joseph Boakai was very good at taking instruction, but he was never good at developing and implementing anything. If you tell him, say, go ahead and kill this chicken, he will kill the chicken, you won't have no problem. But when you tell him, say, go and feed us, this is where it comes from. So here we are. When we're talking about symbolism, a wise man who says nothing, when everything around him is burning, what does that say about this man that some people are pushing, and some people said they were pushing for a very reason, for that particular reason, that he was inept, he was feeble, he got some dimension and all that. Talk to me.
So I will say three quick things before we exhaust this topic. The first thing is that what we are seeing is that once more, we have the same situation with George Weah. We have somebody who is not prepared to be president, but he's being pushed by others behind him. Those people are making decisions in the background. Those people are the ones that are pushing policy, and we're seeing it very clearly. That's what's happening. And we've seen quite clearly what happens when you carry out those things. We're seeing quite clearly when you put somebody like George Weah in the seat, and he doesn't have the ability to lead and be presidential, we see where Liberia is and where Liberia is headed. We don't want to make that mistake anymore. Number two is that it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Benin Ayure reacts. We knew for a long time that JMB and Benin Ayure were bosom buddies with certain expectations. Now that we see that Nyonblee is being coronated as the VP, we're about to see how the ALP reacts to this. Knowing Liberian politics, they come and watch the Deriklo Osa. So all the little secret deals and the little secret agreements are about to become public. And we'll all sit here and watch it. Thirdly, when it comes to Nyonblee, I think this is an extremely bad move. And this is why I say that. The people of Bassa now expect Nyonblee to be VP for Joseph Boakai. If the Unity Party does not pick Nyonblee to be Joseph Boakai's VP, it would turn off that entire group of people. And then what do they do then? So that's where I'm coming from. And it will be very interesting in the next few months to see how things kind of unroll.
Mr. Isma here. I'm from Grand Bassa County, obviously, and everybody knows that I support the president. And one of the dilemmas in the Bassa Belt has been Joe Weah's mother is from Grand Bassa County, Riverside in particular. Yeah. He's considered a son of theirs too. So there has been this coming out of there. And that was evident in the past elections. He came in very close second to Bronsky in all Bassa belts. Now that Bronsky is no longer there, will that catapult him to the front? And if like somebody talking about where are the tacticians in this political arena? Because these are the things that those who are into the political calculus should be looking at when you're picking a vice president. What can this person deliver? What I would have asked Mr. Boakai would be, with this split loyalty in Grand Bassa County, no matter how you split this, President Weah is going to get between 50, let's say we split it 50-50, okay? Can 50% of the Bassa Belt bring you anything outside of that? And the answer is no. So just thinking about selecting Nyonblee Kanga. Second, we usually, during the election time, we go into deliverables. I called Nyonblee Kanga's office several times for them to send me bills that she has sponsored, bills that have been passed into law, bills that she had co-sponsored. Remember, she's in her second term. The first 9 years gone, she's been there 10 years already. And they told me there is no need for her to sponsor. We got enough bill, but she had written several letters and she stands out to advocate for people. That's what she does. So here we are when we're talking about leadership here. Everybody goes into, they call you a lawmaker. Your duty is to make law. Advocacy is at the end of it. You have to make law. What is your legacy making law? Nyonblee Kanga in her 10th year have not passed one bill, have not sponsored or co-sponsored anything they could send me. So, Mr. Padmore, if you were sitting with Mr. using this as evidence and you were advising Mr. Cummings, will this affect how you advise in selecting a vice presidential candidate?
Well, I mean, output is very important. Output is very important. It's not the sole decider, but output is very important. We must realize George Weah was one senator. He too did not write any bills. He didn't sponsor anything. He didn't even write one letter, sir. But yeah, he is president of Liberia. So we have a very peculiar election cycle, a very peculiar group of voters. So I wouldn't say that would be a sole thing, but yeah, output of a person, how they lead, how they are productive, it would play a role. Yes, it would.
Mr. Eastman.
And if I were to come in, I'm also having heritage from Rivers as much as Grand Bassa. Um, and George Weah, yes, he is one of our sons from his mother is also from Rivers, and one of his kingpins to win Rivers was I understand Tailway, who was going to also contest for the senatorship for Rivers, the one who is suspended today.
Okay.
I believe if the president capitalizes on his affinity, his relation to Rivers, he can successfully now totally win Grand Bassa County, since it has the Party is split in two. But of course, in Riverside, we want to see more development. We believe that we've been neglected by governments again and again and again in developing our county. We don't have the roads network that we need, and we would like to see some road development come there. But they've left Basso wide open right now by this factioning of the list. It's wide open for anybody. And being that he has blood relatives from there, he had bloodline from Riverside, I do see as an opportunity to capitalize on that. But Basso people, they think rationally. So they're going to look at, past actions and what people have done to in the past before they make a decision. They're not going to simply elect one only because of his affinity, but they're going to question his actions and what they're prepared to do next. Mr. Cummings, I still say they have a lot of roles to make up to show the common man that this man will change their lives. And it's not easy to convince people on that level, because we've seen others before sing a song and do a different dance. But it will be the ability of his campaign managers to sell that Cummings will actually improve the lot of the everyday marketeer, motorcycle boy, and farmer. If they can have a way to resonate that message with the people, then maybe they'll get a chance.
Mr. Gagwa, real quick here. Now that we are beating up on Mr. Boakai, former VP Boakai here, let's look at who could be his possible or the type. Okay, we are talking about the genotype of what people will consider VP. Looking at the Uri factor, Uri has been the backbone of Joseph Boakai from day one, financially, economically, vocally. You're talking about Joseph Boakai would be no Joseph Boakai if there were not a Uri. The absence of Uri at that meeting, and all of that, who will you think would have made a better VP, or who should make a better VP for Joseph Boakai?
Another great question. But there are a few things that I'm thinking. First, let me just say that I don't think that when we're discussing a viable candidate, right, for Liberia in this century. Now, I'm a young man, right? And given all of what has happened with Europe and the history there is, I don't think his name should even come up. I don't even think that in-house that he is a competitor when it comes to that position. I think what he's looking for right now is some sort of continual protection to continue to do his business in Liberia peacefully and have some sort of political influence. And I think that's what he has with his connection with Joseph Boakai, even though that might be a little dangerous, given the message about change and changing the trajectory. But when we talk about who might be a better pick from a strategic perspective, and I'm not a political strategist, right? I'm just thinking common sense. Here is what I will look at. I think that I will look at a guy who many will concur that he has the expertise. He's well experienced in governance. He's been around for a long time. He's well educated. And he may not be as popular as George Weah internationally, but he's well known in Washington, D.C. However, does he have what it takes to win on his own? I don't think so. And that person that comes to mind for me will be Gonglu. I think Gonglu is a great candidate. He's a guy who does not have a lot of story when it comes to corruption. He's a guy who has a record of challenging previous government. He's a guy who seems to stand for some principles, and he has not been willing to compromise what he stands for. We've seen that in actions and decisions that he's taken. He's not free of any mistake, of course. But I think when you're thinking about a person who don't necessarily have the finances to win an election, but could possibly get to that position or close to the executive mansion strategically, will be that guy. If something might happen and Joseph Boakai cannot fully perform his duties, given considering his age, I think Liberians will be somewhat pleased with a guy like Gonglo stepping in. So I will look at that. Plus, not only does he, you don't have to worry about Bassa, because with or without Yomi Kanga Lawrence, I think Joseph Boakai will surround himself with people who could make the case in Bassa. I think Bassa is open right now. Without Charles Bronson in this risk, the only candidate that I would have been afraid of to say Bassa is hands off if Charles Bronson was in this race. He's not, unfortunately. Yomi Kanga Lawrence does not have the foundation in Bassa to deliver Bassa 100%. So what he brings to the table is not only all of what I've mentioned, but it's a strong possibility that he could challenge George Weah in Nima County, with the fact that Prince Johnson, a popularity in that area, is failing. But if I was trying to be extreme, and this whole idea about gender to balance the ticket, because CDC has a female candidate, right? Even though I don't think Joy Howard Taylor has been effective or an effective female a VP candidate, if you want to make that argument, a more substantial argument, and one that is solid from our perspective, I will throw in, these guys may not like this, but I will throw in Lima Bowie. Lima Bowie, I think, is a more, even though she does not have a political history, but I think from all considerations, I think she might be some tricky pick. She has the endorsement of the international community. They love her, they like her. She's well known. She won the Nobel Peace Award. She's done an amazing work internationally. She knows some great leaders abroad. She might be a tricky pick if the conversation is centered around just gender, right? But beyond that, she brings some substance to the table. But lastly, if the conversation is gender too, and we are thinking about passing the torch, because I think this is the last election where young people have got to stand up and say, you know what? We will no longer allow our elders, though we might need them for advice, for wisdom. But this whole idea that we must be governed by folks who are 40, 50 years old past the generation, don't understand what 21st century, what you might call is, we will no longer allow them to lead us. Then I will go with Councilor Charlene Bruskin. Not only does she bring this youth to the ticket, there's a strong possibility if Boakai cannot perform his duties, she can step in, and that will be changing of history, passing of the torch. And it will also reflect the legacy of Joseph Boakai if he were to win the election. Those are names I will throw in there. And I think these are people that offer a lot more substance than a Yomi Kanga Lawrence, who I believe is a complete failure. She's failed the people of Grand Bassa. She brings nothing to the table but disunity. She's not a strong leader, and she has not been able to consolidate the base or expand the base of Liberty Party. I think this will be a complete disaster if they were to pick her.
Jeez, man, what Nyonblee did to you?
Mr. Padmore, real quick. You see, I like this. I like his analysis, especially now he threw in two, and we're going to dissect it. Now, if Joseph Boakai or anybody would have gone with Lima Bowie off the top, Lima Bowie in the opposition or in the leadership camp, she's known for praying for the success of the country and saying, pray the devil back to hell. And that devil was Charles Taylor and the rebel group and all of that. Then we came to find out that while she was praying the devil back to hell, she was sleeping with the devil and had a child for Charles Taylor. So that may actually affect her when it comes down the line. But what is new here, though, is a fresh face like Charlene Bronsky, somebody who has no baggage, who has no record. You can't run anything against her other than she's young and other that. Look at those because we're talking about possible VPs now. Mr. Padmore, I'm not giving you any idea here because I know you are ANC man. But let's chime in here. We need two folks here. Well, we're talking about to be gender balanced now. To be gender balanced because I'm saying here, he talked about first with URI, that URI has the war criminal thing and all of that. The URI folks are saying, but you cannot separate URI and Vice President Taylor because she herself was married to Charles Taylor and she was in bed with this and she benefited from the war and all of that. So you cannot take her and then leave URI out. But now he are throwing in two new ones. We are talking about Bowie here. We are talking about Charlene Bronsky.
Look, here's the thing, man. Let's just cut the thing here short. The best VP candidate for Joseph Boakai would be Alexander Cummings. Let's cut and dry. All around the player talking about Lima Bowie and Charlene Bronsky and all the things. The best VP candidate for Joseph Boakai would be Alexander Cummings. Unfortunately, he missed the boat. All you guys were present when during the Democratic preliminaries, when Kamala Harris went up against Joe Biden. On that entire stage, she was the only person that really rattled his feathers. Did he get intimidated by it? No. He actually looked at it and said to himself, if there's anybody here that I would prefer to be my VP, to stand in my back, it will be that woman that was able to stand up to me. Joseph Boakai had a very unique opportunity. You say you are the godfather. You say you have the population at your back. Take Alexander Cummings to primaries. Whip her butt. And then say, my picking, please come. Be my VP. The whole country would have been up. It would have been a direct march, first round victory for CPP. Instead, they started doing their usual politics, their usual backdoor things, trying to avoid a preliminary, all those things. And it just showed his lack of leadership. But I refuse to dance around the topic and call other people names. My choice, if I were advising Joseph Boakai for a VP candidate, it will be Alexander Cummings.
Well, let me hold you there. No, thank you for plugging in your Alexander Cummings guy. But Cummings made it clear that he's going to be number one and he doesn't want to be number two. So I like when you a very, very interesting word you use, say he missed the boat. Mm-hmm. So are you telling me, with all things being constant, that the possibility of being picked as vice president has come and gone? That ship has left the dock, the train has left the station. Is that what you're trying to say here categorically?
Absolutely. That train has left the station.
Wow. Mr. Gagwa, this is a breaking news here. Somebody who is very close to Mr. Cummings, he's close to the campaign. He's basically an analyst, somebody who looks into the man's face and sees his soul. From our Republican Party, that's what Joe Bush used to say. I look at Putin in his face and I see his soul. Padmore looks at Cummings and see Cummings' soul. He is saying the ship has left the dock, the train has left the station, Amtrak has gone. Joseph Boakai is all by himself. So here we are. Are you hearing what I'm hearing? This is a breaking news.
Yeah, I and you know what, and you know what, I agree with him 100%. I think that, and this is the reason why I did not mention Cummings' name. When I talk about Gonglu, I think Cummings would have fit that slot, and that would have been in a conversation. But Cummings, I think, has made it explicitly clear that he does not intend to be VP pick. Now, the conversation didn't just stop. I think from all indications, I think Cummings' focus has always been on the executive mansion. And here is why I said that. I remember in 2017, after the election, I had a couple of conversations with a few folks who names I will not mention. But one of the questions that I asked, I said, I think politically speaking, no one is questioning Cummings' academic level, his experience, his background, and I mean, look at George Weah. George Weah had the popularity, but a lot of Liberians in 2005 didn't think that he was fit to be president. And if he had this same education as I think of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, I think we would have been having a different conversation about the magnitude of what she was taking over from the field leadership of Charles Taylor, right? Because we knew how well he competed, and to many extent, international folks have confirmed this. He almost probably won that election, right? And so, I didn't mention his name, but he is the best person. But here is the thing, and I think some of my Unity Party friends are right when they question his intent and his loyalty, because I think Cummings missed an opportunity in 2017. In 2017, when the concession of that collaboration didn't work, I think Cummings actually sitting out of not making an endorsement in the second round probably hurt him. A lot of Unity Party folks are saying, had Cummings picked to endorse Joseph Boakai, the conversation about who has the ticket now would have been a lot different, because he would have won the trust of Unity Party, especially the Joseph Boakai base. But the fact that he did not participate, he decided not to endorse a candidate, I think, and coming back into this election, I think he always wanted to be the head of the ticket, and I don't blame Cummings for that. Why is it that we are so afraid to compete in Liberia? Look, Cummings is a statesman. He's been in public service for 40-some years. But unfortunately, the club that I'm cut from, we don't elect leaders just based on the mere fact that they've been in public service for 40 years. And I'll give you an example. We rejected a well-qualified man in this country. The American people, but that I mean. John McCain served since 1987. That was before some of well, I'm not going to call my age, right? But that's 1987. That's more than 31 years in office. Not only that, he diligently served this country. He paid his dues, a POW. Well accomplished man in the Senate. But who defeated him? He was rejected by a two-term senator, not a 2-year senator, and a black young man who did not have the experience in government. Okay, he didn't have the base, the blue, what they call the blue collar voters, right? But he was able to present a case, and that moment elected him. So this whole idea that because he's been around for this long, automatically Cummings should succumb to him and Cummings should refuse to compete. And I don't support Cummings. A lot of things Cummings have done. I'm from Atlanta. I know the man very well. Have left me head scratching. But this whole idea that Cummings should have just automatically succumbed to the second slot, I think that's misleading, and it's ridiculous to a lot of extent. But I agreed he would have been the perfect pick to be the VP slot, which would have just get him to the executive mansion easier and quicker than he's doing right now.
Well, as a member and a strategist par excellence as I am for the CDC party. Let me burst your bubble here. For those of you who are on this Cummings corporate pedigree and all of that, the CDC we will come back at you with, I mean, not even hot, but just
be careful.
lukewarm. Just lukewarm, and tell you that if corporate America could translate into leadership, we won't be even talking about Trump now, okay? Because Trump came from corporate America. Everybody thinks he has his own money. He's billionaire. He's done that, and it's a complete disaster. And I can see the same thing happening with Mr. Cummings. He's talking about Coca-Cola. He's talking about all of those things like when he worked for Coca-Cola. Well, nothing new happened in Coca-Cola. He didn't create a new flavor. He didn't come up with new formula. He was a manager like I was in the United Way, a big organization that has a maze, a structure that you cannot fail. You will be supported. You have the formula. You have everything. You have the resources. So I was one of the most successful CEOs in the United Way. And then when I left, I went to the Chamber of Commerce. Same thing. Everything was set up for me to succeed. So Cummings cannot say because I've been in corporate America, it will translate into government. In the private sector, I can fire anybody I want, I will. It doesn't happen in the public sector where you have civil servant right, you have all of those things. So, Mr. Pano, I'm sorry, I know your facial expression changed when I
because you're missing.
You cannot translate corporate success into the public sector. Trump is a typical example. I'm just telling you what the CDC will throw at you, and we will come at you very hard. So you hit me back.
So you actually comparing Mr. Cummings to Donald Trump?
Yes.
If that's what I'm hearing?
That's what I'm saying.
God. Okay, so the first thing you have to understand, Donald Trump got handed money by his daddy so many times that he's not a corporate success. He's not. The money that Donald Trump has been handling, if you, I, are going to handling that money, we too will be billionaires. Okay? But here's the thing. You have a Liberian boy from Point Four that came to America, got an education, okay, entered corporate America, and worked his way up. Something that Donald Trump never did. He worked his way up to being vice president for one of the largest companies in the world, was in charge of Coca-Cola Africa, all by himself, making decisions that will cost a company billions of dollars. Okay? Coca-Cola just doesn't sell Coca-Cola. Probably the water that you're drinking right now, Coca-Cola sells that water, if you don't know. Coca-Cola is ever expanding and rebranding itself year in, year out. This is not a stagnant corporate culture. Okay? It is very vibrant. And so because of that, they needed a vibrant person. And he was extremely successful in that. So successful that they took him from Africa and said, we need you in Atlanta. That's how good he was. So you can't do the same. Okay? Look, in the private sector, you cannot fire everybody. In the private sectors, you have a board of directors that you are answerable to. They make decisions. They can fire you. You don't fire them. You're still answerable to them. Okay? You have a large budget. You have a multifaceted organization. All these things are reminiscent of a government. People work directly under you. But guess what? Everything falls on you as the boss. You are held responsible. You have to be the one to set an example. You have to be the one to motivate people. You have to be the one to bring out the best in people. All these things that happens in corporate America should be happening in our government structure. Okay? People should not just wear purple suits or leather slipper or sneaker with coat suit. No. There are other things that should emulate from the president. Like coming to work. Like being structured. Okay? Like communication. All those things should be emulated by the rest of the government, and they are not.
And those things are the things that stand out for Alexander Cummings. I tell you, you tell me I know him personally. Yes, I know him personally. And I will tell you something. He is a man. Timing is important to him. He's never late wherever he goes. If he gives you an assignment, he expects it to be done on time and how it's supposed to be done. Productivity. Or he demands it of his surrounding. And that's why you see people come close to him and they fall off because they can't keep pace.
Okay,
They
well,
cannot keep pace.
okay.
So I
Now
just wanted to make that clear to you so
Good.
you and the rest of the Liberian people can understand. Yes, there is a direct correlation between corporate America's success and governmental success.
Can I interject? Can I interject
Go
for a
ahead,
second?
go ahead, Mr.
You know,
Gayman.
I think for the most part, Michael, I think I agree with you as a professional myself, right? Because in this country, you don't claim the ladder just based on who you know. It's what you know and what you bring to the table. I think it's merit based, and I think Cummings' story is a success story from a professional perspective, especially working in corporate America. That every Liberian who comes not only to this country but abroad should strive to imitate. But I think the point that Jerome is making, though, which to some extent has been proven, is that why it is that it is important to have these kind of experiences. Let's not also forget that the structure, the environment in Liberia lacks many of the structures that a corporation like Coke have. So with or without Cummings, that institution lives on. Someone else, he took over someone else, have taken over him, but there's a structure. Now, they are to bring their own vision and their own leadership style and different things to the table, right? But there's a structure there that we don't have in Liberia. And so when you have a guy like Cummings, the question I think Jerome asks, and I think one we all should ponder, is that has he been able to transfer what he has learned in a structured environment to an environment that is unlike the environment that he's used to in leadership? And if you ask me, and I think from your perspective, I think you will say a resounding yes. But if you ask me, no, I'll give you an example. When Cummings started ANC, he left right to Atlanta. We know the folks that went to Liberia to explore his campaign. It started with Team Cummings, right? And then it went to Team Cummings for Liberia. And then it went to ANC Global, so forth and so on. But has Cummings been able to consolidate all of these subgroups with the ANC Liberia? Has he actually made some fine decisions with regards to starting a true revolution based on shared core values? I don't think so. When he talks about doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different results, well, in 2017 he said that the Unity Party, Joseph Boakai, Weah, and others were not good for Liberia. They were corrupt. I agreed, and he asked Liberian for new codes. I agree 100% with him. What changed from 2017 to now? Going to bed with the very folks that he questioned had what it took to move Liberia in a different direction. So the question, looked at Musability, right? So the question, I think some of us who comes from an independent and objective place question him does he really want to be president of Liberia, and at what length is he willing to go? What is he willing to compromise to become president of Liberia? Or is he willing to be a man and stand on his principles to chart a new course for our country?
Well, let me debunk this cultural thing, because I have a platitude of folks that came from the private sector that have feel in it. I think everybody heard about Ben Carson, the neurosurgeon that was internationally renowned for separating conjoined twins and all of those things. Ben Carson did, and he went against Trump, and Trump brought him into government and said, "You run the Department of Housing, you run HUD." And Mr. Carson, Ben Carson failed at that miserably because what he learned, what he did in his private practice, in his private life, could not be transferred into government.
Are you done?
In your private sector, when you say jump, people jump. When you say move, people move. You can hire and fire at will. But when it comes to the private sector, and I'll give you an example of several missteps by Mr. Cummings that show that he's not ready for public life. The first document, public document that he published on the leadership style of the CPP shows that he's not even an infant in politics when he defined who are those that he will surround himself with. He said you have to be the top jobs are going to those who are major contributors, visible. We are talking about name brand folks. So here we are, a gentleman who is coming into public. When we talk about merit, he didn't say those who are meritorious.
You know that wasn't his document, right?
Listen.
Okay, I just want to make clear that wasn't his document.
But and second,
okay,
leaders are people who can build from the grassroots. Mr. Cummings has not built anything from the grassroots. In fact, he took over the ANC. The ANC was an established organization. Some say he bought, some say he purchased. Okay, so he has no record of building anything. He has a record of joining stuff. He joined Coca-Cola, and then he joined ANC, and now he wants to join Liberia. So he has no record of building anything.
Are you finished? Are you done?
Yeah, I'll let
you
want to join Liberia.
Can you believe that? That's the first thing. Let me just debunk that whole joining and whatever. George Weah did not create CDC. We all know that. CDC was created and George Weah was invited to lead CDC. So let's stop with that other thing there. The second thing is that Ben Carson is not a corporate executive. Ben Carson is a doctor, a neuroscientist. He wasn't a corporate executive. Two, he didn't have to work his way through corporate America. You're missing something very important here. It's that somebody from a boy from Point Four who went to demonstration school can take an opportunity to work in corporate America and rise himself up to vice president of Coca-Cola. That is no small feat. Any Liberian that wants to be successful should look to Alexander Cummings as an inspiration. And if you fail to do that, then maybe something seriously wrong there somewhere. Okay? And I really want to clear this up because I continue to hear this throughout the landscape. People are saying that, when Alexander Cummings came into the political limelight, he stated that certain people were not good for Liberia, and then he found himself in bed with those people. First, let me clarify exactly what Mr. Cummings said. Mr. Cummings said that, yes, certain people were not good for Liberian leadership. Okay? What do you mean? How can somebody determine who is good for Liberia and who is not good for Liberia? We are all Liberians. So therefore, we are all for Liberia. But not everybody is good for Liberian leadership. George Weah was definitely not good for Liberian leadership. But he was good for Liberia. During the dark days of the war, George Weah was the one that kept Liberia, the torch of Liberia burning. We all can admit to that. But when it comes to the presidency, we all know today that was not good for Liberia. Okay? You have to understand something, my people. It's going to take everybody, every Liberian, to move Liberia forward. But it's going to take a strategic, honest leader with integrity and focus to lead the nation. Everybody's going to have to be a part. We cannot isolate a group of people, whether they are corrupt, they've been accused of corruption, they've been in bad leadership. We cannot isolate those people. Those people are Liberians. They deserve to be a part of the new Liberia. But what we can say is that even though you can't be a part, leadership not for you. Okay? So here, Mr. Cummings will lead us to the future. We will follow, we will build and create a better Liberia for all of us and all of our children. I hope I made that clear finally for everybody. So they understand this.
Mr. Gagwa,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm coming to you before you respond. I want you to, after your quick rebuttal, you can respond to this. In politics, we say in the war room, like in athletics, the best defense is offense. I think Mr. Weah, President Weah, have put Mr. Cummings on the defense here. And now we have gone into a letter writing war. And the trending topic on that offense from the CDC, cleverly made, where were you? That's the trending topic. And it has caused Mr. Cummings to write a 25-paragraph letter that he replied to President Weah. The question that is stuck, in politics, we say you have to define the opposition before he defines himself. You got to define your opposition. I think President Weah did that the first term by saying this man is a stranger. He doesn't belong here. He just come. Now they are asking, where were you when Liberia needed you? And he admitted that when President Weah, when Liberia was on its knee, when she was on her knees, President Weah was there. And then President Weah turned that into a beautiful offensive move, like a striker he is. He said, Mr. Cummings, when I was here in the refugee camp, where were you? When Liberian people were on their knees and looking for a light, where were you? When Liberian people were dying in their droves, where were you? When you had your corporate job, and I had my celebrity fame in Monaco, I left it and came to Liberia. Mr. Cummings, where were you? That question that is trending have put Cummings on the defense. He wrote a 25-paragraph response. Go ahead, help me out here.
Before I go to that, I just wanted to just go back to what Mr. Patmo spoke about. I'm trying to. I want to make sure that I said the right thing. But this whole thing about, I think it's echoing. I'm not sure.
Yes, somebody turn your gadget up, please, or when.
Yeah, this whole thing about good for Liberia but not good for leadership, I think it's a contradiction. Now, no one is asserting or insinuating that Liberians, such as folks who may have tainted character or history of not being on the side of Liberia or Liberians, or being on the side of themselves, self-aggrandizement, their own personal interests. I don't think we can take away their citizenship if we decide to go after them, not go after, if we decide to persecute them. I think that the law will lead to where the truth lies. But this whole thing about being good for Liberia but not good for leadership, it's not one that I subscribe to. Here's the thing. I'm a man of principle. I stand for something. And let me tell you this. In the interest of our country, there are things we can do collectively. But when leaders are making decisions, my friend, the decision of a leader is a reflection of what he personally stands for. I'll give you an example. When Jeremiah Wright spoke from the pulpit and made the comments that he made, Jeremiah Wright was not only the pastor that Obama sat under, the voice he sat under. This man actually gave Obama his best-selling book title. He was very influential in the upbringing and the ideology of Barack Obama, both spiritually and him finding himself for over 25 years. But when he made that comment, Obama took a stand, and that stand was not a political stand from my perspective. It was one that truly reflected what he stood for. It wasn't about, I have to protect my pastor. It wasn't about, this man did something significant to me. He made that decision because the Reverend spoke in a way that he did not personally agree with. That was a reflection of his integrity. That was a reflection of his principles. And so when Cummings says, I think there are corrupt people who may not be good for leadership, Either they are good for leadership. If they're not good for leadership, then what they are preferring is not good for Liberia, which means they're not good for Liberia. They can still be entitled to their constitutional rights. They can still vote. They can still participate. But the question is, you don't have to participate with me. We don't share the same core values. And my frustration with Cummings and most of our leaders in Liberia is the fact that we think that we cannot get to the executive mansion by starting a revolution that people will believe in, that people will come and say, you know what? I think this guy is serious about actually changing the narrative. What Cummings has done is the total opposite. He wants to become president, and so he has associated himself with people he would not necessarily or ordinarily associate himself with, only because it's a personal interest. And for me, that's questionable. So to the letter thing, I think that there's two things about the letter. I think that it benefits Cummings from a political perspective, that he is seen going back and forth with the executive mansion, right? After all, Cummings is top 3 candidate. And they have started a healthy debate. I think it's very healthy for our political discourse about some things that could be about the issues. They talk about the sanctions and other things, and the president hit back. So politically speaking, I think it's within the interest of Cummings' camp that the president or the executive mansion will respond the way they did, right? But the president, I think, says something profound. He spoke about attention. I think for so long, Cummings has been seeking the attention of the executive mansion. And that response was them actually dignifying that. But Cummings is a top 3 candidate. He's going to be contesting for the presidency, so forth and so on. But there were a few things that caught my attention with that letter. People were asking who wrote the letter rather than addressing the content of the letter. The ANC folks like to think that they're the smartest. And I got some very good friends who are very, very well-educated folks, smart people, successful people. But there's this sheer arrogance about some of our friends who are with the ANC folks, where people condemned and make this fun about President Weah isn't an educated man. Granted, the man may not be as eloquent as we are. He may not be as educated as we are, whatever the case is, right? But even the most educated and outspoken, eloquent leaders hire professional speech writers. They don't write their own speeches. And so if the executive mansion respond to Cummings, I think strategically, you put yourself on the defense when you continue to focus on what I call majoring in the minor by asking who wrote the letter. What does it matter who wrote the letter when there are things within the letter that actually hit core? What does it really matter? So I think I agree with you on that note. I think the letter really hit core, and I think that question about where were you could be a big political question. If George Weah and the CDC have really smart people who cannot just ask them the question, where were you? The question is simple. But if they can actually switch it into some narrative, like I think you alluded to some of those, if they can put that into context and really hit Cummings really hard on the issues, and why is it that he's actually involved in politics? Is it for the Liberian people, or is it because he has a personal ambition to become president of Liberia? I think they'll be effective on the campaign trail.
Mr. Eastman, let's go. We'll come back to this. I think we're running out of time here. We got 15 minutes here. Let's read some of the comments and let's see where we go from here. Let's pick up. Mr. Palmer will pick 5. You pick 5. Mr. Guy, let's say 3 each. Let's make it 9. Let's pick 3 each, and then make sure we call the names, and then we can go from there. We start with you, Mr. Eastman.
Jerome is a joke. Are you serious to compare Weah with Trump? That from Masa Koli. Gabby Bowie, she said, why have you all not questioned Cummings' educational standards and why he couldn't stop Coca-Cola from leaving from Liberia when he was returning to the country to speak to the highest position in nation? We don't hear this conversation from this elite press corps, are you guys aware of the fact that if you are aware, can be discussed, you will be expected to be sincere, to be loved, to our beloved nation, by exploring what people are bringing to the table.
True.
So almost like she's criticizing the press itself.
Yeah.
And from Patrick Sayon, we all know Cummings will come third, but not willing to face the truth. Another Vonnie Sherman 2023. And Sam Wallow, he's a regular participant to Focus, said there is no correlation between corporate success and government success. Government is a bureaucracy filled with red tape where decisions and actions are slow to move. Corporate is a fast-paced with consultation, pain points to achieve alignment as decisions are made within the framework. That is why business people go into public service, struggle with the slow pace at which government runs. I like to make a comment there. For some things, I do agree with Mr. Wallow. There was a study some time back to show why they noticed that government-ran corporations and enterprises were not very efficient. Why? Because they're not profit-driven. They what we call soft gains. In other words, you achieving as a benchmark is not to survive, but it's just to meet a point. Whereas corporations, people in business, they have to break the break-even point, and they have to make a profit, or they will go under. So they are more efficient in their methods because they have to achieve profit. So yes, I agree with him. The government and corporate are different, but what in this study, they brought corporate people to government to improve the efficiencies of government. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, Mr. Waller, I totally agree with you, but corporate management incorporated in government organizations can improve the efficiency because it'll be driven by other, metrics that will improve and step up the pace. So there are things that can lend from corporate management to politics. But what I do believe, though, winning the people, you're not appointed by a board now. They're not going to look at your educational resume. They're not going to look, they seldom, they do review your job history, but what resonates with the people, can you or will you improve their livelihood? And this is what they believed in President Weah, and that's how he's successful today. It has been a hard sell for Mr. Cummings. I'm not sure why. And as for Mr. Boakai, I think he just benefits from a loyalty and long terms of service. And but like I mentioned earlier, I've seen a lot of mismanagement in that direction. So it's going to be interesting.
Thank you, Ms. Agagua. I'll pick your 5. Read it out. You are muted.
This is from I'm sorry. This is from William Jella, and it reads: if you guys think that the only way Cummings can become relevant is by Joseph Boakai stepping aside, you guys will be disappointed. Doric Poor, Mr. Jerome Gayman, why look for examples all over the place when Mr. Cummings' life is a living example? The man turned his personal resources into wealth. George Weah and Joseph Boakai squander their personal and state resources. And again, from William Jala, Joseph Boakai is exercising his constitutional rights to contest the Liberian presidency, just like Alice Cummings. And that is why Joseph Boakai, is exercising those rights. Stephen Collins. Cummings is a raw global man. Y'all stop this divisive politics about anyone with an English name is Congo. Is notorious killer Prince Johnson a Congo man? You guys need to get off the box of naivety. Let me respond to that quickly though. This whole idea and this whole this whole Congo thing, I think I had an extensive lecture with my pops because he's a traditional man, and I think that many times I visited Liberia, and I'm a raw Bassa boy. Unfortunately, the war drove us out of our country at an early age, trying to run for our lives. But I realized, and I think maybe Mr. Eastman and Pop Mobile can probably chip in on this. In Liberia, I don't think they are looking at your names per se. My father is a Gagwa, and his first name was a Glade. When he came to the city to go to school, the folks that he lived with thought that his name was too hard and difficult to pronounce, especially in schools, right? And so they had to change his name to an English name. That was then. Now, I think that people are described or subscribe to the Congo based on how well you speak. There are many times I go to Liberia and people say, oh, the men speaking American English, the men speaking series. I think we got into the point where we don't appreciate people actually enunciating their words and people speaking standard English. So I don't think necessarily a Congo is subscribed to the name of a person. I think these days it's more so about your financial standing and how well you speak or how well you're educated. Because I've seen some of the most traditional folks, some of the most indigenous folks that people often are referred to as a Congo man, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. Robert, you're hitting a good point. What is going on? A couple of things. We do have tribalism in our country. In other words, we like to associate you with a tribe. Okay, one. But the worst thing is there is people who think that people from the diaspora, from a different intellectual background, are different than they. Yep. So anybody like you go there, they don't really think you're a typical Liberian anymore. You are the new Congo man. It doesn't matter your ethnicity.
Yep.
It's just not your ethnicity that's the problem. Because a lot of those people who we call Congo, they're not from America. A lot of them had Nigerian, Malian, all background. They're not.
Eastman.
Sometimes,
did we have this conversation last? We said Congo is not somebody walking around. It's an elitist thing.
Thank you.
The Congo come from Baza. He come with no shoes when he go to CW. He got a good job. He got a nice car. He riding around. He's Congo. That's what it is. So we all subscribe to being that. The reason this has been negative is because we have never struck this conversation in a public space that we're doing now. All the Congo people that we know, that you and I know in Liberia, we are all from the interior that made it big in town. What does a Congo man do when we were little? He went to school. He looked nice. He drove a nice car. His children went to good school.
Yep.
When you get in that space, you drive a nice car. You got a nice thing. You can't go back to the village now and go lie down and mind that we did. No, you have moved on and you're helping other people. So we all get that. But the reason this thing has stuck around is because we refuse to discuss it. We refuse to educate our folks so this happens. But it's a great point. I think Mr. Patton wanted to go. Go
ahead. Then I'll read my
I'll let you come up with
yeah. Go ahead, Robert. Go ahead with your last two.
So, Sam Woolley, George Weah's failures does not make Cummings the best person to lead Liberia. A person who says they can only be a public servant if they are president and nothing else is a person who runs fast and far away from. I do agree with the first sentence that George Weah's failures does not make Cummings the best person. However, I would like to see a Liberia where true political institutions truly exist, where people like Cummings are given the space to make that case from the perspective of vision and issues. I would also like to see a Liberia where true political institutions allow people like Pelmore and others to who may not be financially strong like Cummings, but who may have better vision for Liberia to compete and challenge Cummings at a primary or in a convention for the party's standard bearership, rather than him being selected. Same thing with Joseph Boakai. We don't have that curl in our country. You are muted. You are muted.
You next. Real quick, we got 5 minutes remaining
Oh
here.
yeah, I'm
And
sorry.
then give me your play of the week when you're done.
Yes, please, because I can't read any comments. I'm not using my computer today.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
So my play of the week this week was Alexander Cummings' letter to the president.
Okay.
He wrote an extensive letter. He introduced some very damning information. He placed dates attached to those, and he brought out the rumors now into the limelight. And that conversation is going to be had this election cycle. We're going to find out if George Weah really supported a rebel group or not. The next thing is we're going to dispel that rumor or that narrative he's been pushing that he is a man of peace, because he is a man who actually headbutted another human being, broke his nose, and was suspended for 6 games. And that is a violent behavior. And so all those things will come out and it will be discussed and will dispel those things. Because when you dispel those things, then guess what? All you are left with now is not the man of peace, but instead you are left with the substantive topics that need to be discussed and not those other side cases. So yeah, so that was my move for the week.
Can I 1 minute? Look, Michael. This is my first time interacting with you, and I think you're very intelligent, big brother. But look, I'm going crazy right now that you even mentioned that. If I was you, I would not. Two reasons why. I think the argument or any kind of conclusion, right, that because a man who, notwithstanding of that moment, had an exceptional career, that moment that led to, well, that entire moment, without considering what precipitated that moment, I think is flawed. Look, when George Weah plays soccer, and this is in the papers, folks, he suffered racism. He spoke about this extensively, and it exists today. The issue with what happened between he and Porto's captain was not right. But people understand why he did what he did.
Really?
He was punished, wait. He was punished for it. There are many other players on the field who encountered heated moment. That did not make them a violent person. For one to be a violent person, one must have a consistent record of violence. You cannot use a moment.
I agree with that.
You cannot use a moment to portray this image of violence when, again, you looked at history of soccer. Zidane never became a violent person. The young player in England, Nunes, never became. These were moments that, per FIFA rules, they were supposed to go through that punishment. So this argument that Cummings even went out his way to make mention of that incident to prove that George Weah is a violent person was, I think, elementary, was intellectually weak, and it's a flawed argument. I don't think politically it benefits you. One last point I want to make is this. If you are going to prove that George Weah supported a warring faction, I think I will give you a suggestion. You have folks from Lurd and Model still alive. What I think you would do and might help your campaign to prove this factual, I want a public statement from those leaders. Sekou Kone is still alive. Let them come on the record. Every financial support that went directly to the to season of getting charged to the office went directly to those leaders. They should come up rather than all of these rumors that has no substantiation of anything. They should come on the record and say, yes, we directly receive funds from George. We are in support of our war, just like we know for a fact Ellen contributed $15,000 to Charles Taylor invasion of Liberia. We should not base this campaign on hearsay and rumors. I think Cummings will be out of his pocket if he did this, and I think it will hurt his campaign.
Mr. Gagwa, your political player of the week.
My political player of the week, I think. Oh my gosh, I think my political player of the week is this whole Yomi Kanga Lawrence VP pick idea. I will tell the folks at the Unity Party right now, hey, Joseph Boakai, maybe he won't come out and speak on publicly. I think he should shut this thing down and create a open playing field where the process can go on and go on peacefully and at the level it's expected.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman.
Yeah, hey, great conversation this week. Sorry for the challenging technical issues, but for me, my play of the week, I am very concerned that the bag is being pulled over our eyes once again. Do you know when the legislature raised their salaries to $15,000 a month and allowances $30,000 allowances twice a year, with gas slips, with new vehicles every 2 years? All these things passed, and not a single protest was held. Where were we asleep? Were we not aware? I think some of the things that happened to us that we're supposed to protest about, we are letting slide under the carpet, and it affects us the next day. A new one is being proposed, to my understanding, and that is some people are going to start receiving benefits and pensions in perpetuity when they retire from there. If this is going to be granted, it should be granted to everybody who served government, not just a select few. But we don't hear it being talked about enough. If we don't speak about these things that the Senate is doing, it will pass, and we will be stuck with it for generations to come. That is my play of the week. I think they're trying to pull a fast one over us once again.
Thank you. I think people a few years ago we were talking about the light being the Senate. We're talking about folks getting in the Senate. The whole midterm election. They wiped out the CDC and brought in brand new core opposition from the ANC, from the CPP, because they were coming to make a change. And you are right. All those that were the light, that was supposed to be the light in the house to expose these things. We are talking about 80% of our budget being recurring, and we are adding more onto it. But my political play of the week is the Nyonblee Kanga Liberty Party. That charade in Grand Bassa, they took the limelight that was between President Weah and Cummings, have taken the front pages of all the newspapers for 9 days in a row. And all of a sudden, Joseph Boakai and Nyonblee Kanga decided to steal the limelight back. And it is self-evident when you look on the front page or front page Africa and all the newspaper, all you see is the picture of Joseph Boakai and Nyonblee Kanga, all the newspaper. So that was a political play of the week. They actually did it, and they accomplished their aim. They stole the spotlight without paying a dime for media coverage. That is what we call political play week. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our road here. Mr. Gagwa, thank you very much for your intelligent, insightful, balanced analysis. You are welcome to this platform anytime. Mr. Eastman, as always, even when it's difficult, you will find a way to get on and make sure that we do this. That's awesome, and we love this team. Mr. Padmore, as usual, he supports his team. He's very analytical. He's fair. He's balanced. He hits when you have to hit. But it's all about Liberia, no matter what it is. I am sure when Cummings become president, when I call, hopefully he doesn't turn his phone off. When I call him, I say, listen, man, I want to do this. I want to do this. He opens up to me. But this is what we have to do. I'd rather write letters. We'd rather talk about this. We would rather attack each other in public than to go to the bushes, to Boutro, and slaughter people, break down our community, break down our society because we want to be president. So this is healthy for our democracy, it's healthy for our society, and I can see the future as being bright. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. As always, we say, whether you are ANC man, CDC man, or Unity Party person, we are all Liberians. So don't forget, next week we are starting back our 4 o'clock time. We will be here, Mr. Gagwa. You can join us next Sunday at 4 o'clock. Send in any topic that you want to Mr. Eastman or Mr. Padmore. We'll put it on. Let's go with this. This is beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We end with our song, We Are All Liberians.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.